Hey guys, how's it going? I'm so excited about the episode today, but let me first introduce myself to everyone who's new here. Welcome, I'm Natalia Schneidmiller and I help women end or put an end to all the fighting that they do in their relationships, starting with the relationship with their son. So if you are fighting with your son, I can help you, and then that will also affect all your other relationships. And the way I do that is by teaching you and helping you manage your mind around everything in your life, around health and work, relationships, yourself, love, like you name it, anything. I help you manage your mind around it so then you feel really good about yourself. And then the way you show up in your relationships is loving and supportive and just happy. Okay. So I want to read you one of the reviews that from one of my clients, just to give you an idea of what's possible. And I give you an idea also what people are struggling with and what I've helped him with. And as you can see so far, it ranges widely from one issue to the next. So this one is a mom of 2 little kids. And she says, before working with Natalia, I could not manage my anxiety. Now I can drive my kids to school, get groceries, do whatever needs to be done. Before that, I thought I would die for sure. I was paralyzed. I got control of my life back and I feel awesome, free, lighter. She got me back to my confidence, got me back to who I really am. For anyone who is on the fence about doing this work, I would say that for me, it was definitely the key help to get out of it so it does work. And it does change you. It doesn't just help you, it changes you in a positive way. So it really is worth it. Everybody should know the stuff that Natalia has to share. I felt I was finally reconnecting with myself even while having anxiety. I got really good at realizing that anxiety is just an emotion, just like happiness, sadness, and it is just something that happens in our body. I was able to get personal with myself. She gave me the access key to get personal with myself and understand what is going on in my brain. Thank you, Natalia. You are so welcome. And as you can see, people come from different backgrounds and have different problems or have different struggles. And whatever they're struggling with, it always comes back down to how you relate to yourself and when I help you connect with yourself. So this is something, of course, when you are anxious, right? Like this person, this client, she was anxious. Imagine if you have debilitating anxiety, how that would show up in your relationships, right? It would definitely put a strain on your relationship. You would not show up fully as yourself as a mom. You might have more fights, right? It spreads throughout your whole life. So anything that if we work on any part of our life, it will affect your relationship with other people and yourself. Okay, so today the title of the episode is I feel like I'm going brain dead, and it's because this episode is about solving your boredom, and it's also answering the question, why are we here? Okay, so I have 6 titles for this episode, so I'm going to actually read them to you. So number 1 is consuming versus creating. Okay, was one option for a title. The second option is why are we here? That's another option. The third one I wrote down, bored stay-at-home mom. Fourth is, are you creating every day? And the last one, I feel like I'm going brain dead, is actually a thought that I had in my head when I had this like quote unquote problem. And so this is how I answered it in my life. And I believe that this is not only an answer for me, I believe this is an answer for everyone. And this is why I also labeled this podcast, Why Are We Here? Right? Unofficial title. So the reason why I said why I'm going brain dead is because I was bored. I was doing all the things in my life that were that I needed to do. I was executing them, but I was not being filled up. I was not in that moment. I was not being spiritually filled up. I was not I just felt like I'm kind of going brain dead and I need to do something in my life that's interesting, okay? So that was how it showed up for me. And at the same time, this was months ago, how it also showed up for me is overeating. Overeating and so for some people, it might show up as overeating, over drinking, over fighting, over watching something, overworking, over something, because you're trying to avoid that feeling of emptiness, of boredom, of kind of lack of purpose. And so you're going to be trying to feel better. And if you're not actually processing that feeling of boredom or emptiness, then you're going to either react to it, like fight with someone, right? Act it out, or you're going to buffer with some other activity like over shopping and overeating or over drinking. And so that distracts you and you feel better temporarily from this activity, whatever that activity is, right? Could be over social media, whatever. Any kind of that activity that has a net negative consequence, that where you do a lot of it and then you have either extra weight or you feel really tired from too much watching, or you go in debt from spending too much. Any activity like that where you have a net negative effect is is an indicator that there's a underlying thought and feeling that we're avoiding. So if that's showing up for you, one of the reasons this could be that you're avoiding this feeling of boredom or emptiness or kind of lack of purpose, kind of lost, right? So that feels really not good. It feels kind of like you lose the whole point of life, right? You're like, oh my gosh, what's the point? And this is why I wanted to name it also, why are we here? Why are we here on Earth? Here's why. Here's my theory. Listen it out. Okay, so the reason why we're here on Earth is so that we can contribute to the world in only one way that we can, in our own way. But it has to be our own way, like it has to be unique to us. We can't be copying someone, we can't be just like blindly just producing stuff and being numb to it. And what it is that we contribute to the world is what we desire to contribute. So if everyone has something that they want to do in their life, that is, if we're doing that desire, this is what everyone says, like, follow your dreams, love what you do, blah, blah, blah. And if this doesn't resonate with you, I want you to think about something that it's usually something like you want to do, but you for some reason think that you can't do it or shouldn't do it, or it will be a problem, right? So it's something big. It's almost like some hidden desire that you have, or maybe it's not hidden. Maybe you have already started moving in that direction. But the point I'm making is that it has to be coming from our true desires. That creation, that contribution has to come from our truest desires, like what we truly want. And oftentimes what we truly want, we think, we sometimes may feel ashamed about. We're like, oh my gosh, if I admitted this to the world, then they won't like me. Or if I actually told people what I want to do, they would judge me. Or if I actually started this business and produced this thing, people won't need it, right? There's this big drama about it if we're not doing it. But it is something that we truly, really want, and there's this big fear attached to it. So this is what could be going on for you if you are if you are stuck and don't know the purpose of your life, then this is what's probably playing out for you. You're buffering from that emptiness, you're overeating or watching something, and you also have some sort of big block that you think that you have around doing that thing that you want to do. Okay, I'm being super vague, but just if this applies to you, you will know right away. right? So here's why we're here. We're here to create anything that we want to create. It could be like, this is my podcast. So this is for me, this is my creation. And that is something that I have a desire to help people. And I had a big block around it for a while, right? And the other thing that we attach this to is like our worthiness. So if we feel like we're good enough, we're worthy, then we're going to actually follow through on that desire. We're going to respond to it. We're going to think it's worthwhile. We're going to think that it's worth your attention. So we're going to act on it. We're going to create it. And this is right. This is coming from our idea that I'm worth the trouble. I'm good enough. And if we don't believe that, if we think we're not good enough as a person, then we're going to hide. We're going to hide, and we're not going to think our desires are worth taking a look at. We're not going to think we're not going to think we have anything to create that's worthwhile. So it's a big, huge step. It's a gigantic step to actually take a step towards creating your desire, because then you're going to have to admit to yourself that, hey, maybe I am worthwhile. Maybe my ideas are valuable, at least a little bit, right? That's huge for that reason. And so those two go hand in hand. So create, and so this is why I named this episode also consuming versus creating. We could be going brain dead and feeling lost and feeling lack of purpose and feeling and stuffing our face because we are not creating, and we are consuming way more than we are creating in our life. For example, right, we're consuming food, we're buying things, we're watching things, we are listening to things, we are listening to people, we're reading books. All of that is passive consumption. That is not us not honoring what we want to create in this life that's totally unique to us and it doesn't exist in the world yet. And so creating is not an easy thing to do if it's actually something that hasn't been created in the world yet, because you have to be brave. You have to be, dare to say that this is worthwhile, this might work, this is something to pay attention to. And so that is actually a lot harder than just sitting consuming food and TV, right? So how does this show up in your relationships? Well, let's take a look. If we are feeling like, hey, we're not good enough, and therefore our ideas or our desires are not worth our time and attention, and we might as well, go buy something or go watch something or go eat something or just numb out, then we are going to be totally miserable, right? And when we show up in a relationship with your son or with your partner, that's going to soak through the whole relationship, and you're going to take that dissatisfaction and take it there in that relationship. And guess what, right? If you are not giving yourself the attention and the time, then you won't be able to do that with the people you love, because your mind is not there. You're feeling dissatisfied, and even if you do think different thoughts about the people in your life, that dissatisfaction about yourself is going to taint everything in your other relationships, because you're going to not be motivated. You're going to feel bad, right? So when you feel bad, your actions are going to be more fueled with frustration and dissatisfaction, and not love and not connection. And so when we do the really hard part where we say, hey, I am worth the time, and what I want is actually important, and my desire needs my attention. So I'm going to pay attention to it, and I'm going to be brave enough to create something in the world that hasn't been created. And I'm going to be brave enough to believe that this is important and that the world needs this. Then you're going to be so proud of yourself for actually listening to yourself, right? And you're going to, because you've done all that, you have had to believe that you're worth the time. So you believe from that model, from that thought, that you believe you're good enough. Then how do you feel? Guess what? You feel so connected with yourself, and you feel like you're in the truth of what is true in the world. And the truth is that you are good enough. You are worthwhile. And so from that feeling worthy, from that feeling of satisfaction about yourself, then how do you show up with your people is totally different. You're willing to listen to them. You're willing to also look at them as like the wonder of the world that they are, and also treat them as somebody who's worthy, right? And even if you mess up, you will be more willing to apologize because you believe that you are not a bad person, you are worthy, and they are worthy. And so that will fuel all of your relationships with this belief that you are amazing and they're amazing. And therefore, there's no frustration, and therefore it is worthwhile to connect and love them and work towards that, right? So that's why I wanted to bring this to you so that you can also have that seed in your head to start paying attention. What are you creating in the world that's actually coming from your truest desires? I don't remember who said that, but your desire is, if you follow your desire, then that will create the result, which will be the contribution to the world that has never been created before, and that is actually needed in the world, and that's why you're here. And for most of my life, no one ever presented this to me. I never even thought about it. I only thought that, we're here. I'm not sure why we're here, but there's some people who definitely have something to give to the world, and the rest of us, for me, for example, I thought that I don't know what I want to do with my life, so I felt lost and like I didn't know what the purpose was. And as I started considering that everyone has something to contribute, that took me a while to find proof for that. And now I see it everywhere. For example, you guys know some comedians, right? Some stand-up comedians. This is just one example. Now, maybe let's say 5 or 10, like a handful of comedians that right? And I'm just assuming that you don't know everyone, right? But I want you to actually imagine, which is actually the truth, there's so many more stand-up comedians out there that we don't know about. And why is that? It's because everyone has something to offer that's unique and to them, and actually is something that everyone wants to listen to. There's an audience for each comedian out there. Then they do their rounds, and they may not be as famous and popular as the other ones, but they are out there. They do exist. This is their contribution, and they make people laugh. But we just don't know about them, right? So my mind was blown. I don't know if yours is, but my mind was blown to realize that there are so many of them. I thought, okay, how could this be? I thought there's only a few of them that are so funny. No, of course. No, there are so many people in the world that are not even comedians that make people laugh. Why is that? Wait a minute. I had to... It's because everybody has something to contribute. That's their unique contribution, and it's based on their desire. Okay, what's my desire? To make people laugh, right? So the sheer number of all these comedians that are out there, and I don't even know most of them in the world, but I keep discovering new ones. is proof enough that there's so many of them, and all of us have something to contribute. We just have to do the work to actually give birth to it. Like every time I was actually explaining to my husband how I create these episodes, it is like giving birth in terms of it's like a struggle inside of me for the pure idea to come out of what I actually want to say. And because sometimes when I sit down to record and I start preparing, my mind I have a plan. I'm like, oh, I like this idea. I'm going to talk about this. Da, 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 da. But as I sit down and start to prepare, sometimes there is struggle. Something doesn't feel right. I don't know how I'm going to say this. And I keep struggling with this idea. And then I finally realized, okay, I have to let go of this agenda in my head for what I thought this episode will be and ask myself, okay, what actually wants to come out? And as I say that to myself, then I know then the actual birthing of the idea comes out and it flows. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm excited about it. And it literally is like a artistic process of giving birth to something that hasn't been in the world. So this is just to give you an idea of that. It is a process that takes effort, and it's not easy, but it is worthwhile, and you have that in you. You just have to be willing to find out what it is, to listen to it, to be open to it. And you don't have to, I'm just going to tell you right now, even if you know what you want, I want to tell you, you don't have to act on it, okay? So don't put any pressure on yourself that, hey, I have to go create it. Hey, you can tell yourself the truth. I want to create this, but I'm super duper scared and I'm not going to do it. That is already way more powerful than saying, oh, I don't want anything. I don't want to do anything. And we might do that to ourselves because we are afraid. Okay, if I tell myself the truth, that means I'm going to have to go and do that thing. And I don't want to go do that thing. I don't want to go, do public speaking or whatever, right? So that's why I'm offering you this option. It's called like a silent decision making. Just tell myself the truth. I want to do this, but I'm scared, so I'm not going to do it right now. So you're kind of like telling yourself the truth, the decision, but you're giving yourself an out. Like, I don't have to act on it. So my final message to you is that you have that desire in you for something in your life that is worthwhile, really, 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 really worthwhile. Like, it is the most important thing in your life because that's why you're here. And no matter what your brain tells you, it is worth looking at, and you are worthy of approaching it, of going through with it, because then that will give you purpose in your life, will give you that feeling like, hey, my life is worth something because I'm worth something, and what I have to offer to the world is actually so good. It's important, and people need this. And so that feeling of that uniqueness, feeling that you are worthwhile, you're good enough, is priceless. You can't get that from a bag of chips, from a show, from buying something, from fighting, like creating drama with someone, from overworking. That is one of a kind feeling, like you are part of something bigger. Okay, guys, I hope you were not too confused. So if you're still listening, definitely consider writing down, what is my truest, deepest desire, and telling yourself the truth. You don't have to tell anyone else. Well, you can tell me if you want to. I'd love to know. And tell me and tell yourself, and then see what grows from there. No pressure. You don't have to act on it, okay? Because whenever there's pressure, we're not going to do that thing. So you don't have to do it, okay? And if you are already doing something brave, I am so excited for you, and I would love to know what you're creating, and I would love to know how that feels for you. Okay, so if you need any help with any of this and accessing your truest desires and going through with them and even figuring out what it is that you want, anything like that, I am always here for you and always here to also help you right away with any of your relationship troubles, especially with your son. You can go to my website, www.coachingnatalia.com, or email me at natalia@coachingnatalia.com. I will help you with that. Have a great week. I love you all so much. Bye.